大家好，我是 William。然后大家听见我声音吗？听见我声音的打个一。我刚刚我刚刚水打翻了，哎呀，我这都成灾了。All right，大家听见我声音的打个一，Very good，OK。然后今天是我们的思维英语的第一节课，然后等会威廉老师会大家讲思维英语。然后我在这里先欢迎各位学生们，就是一起来参加我们这个课程。然后明天我们将会在以下的，哎呀，同学们，你们这么害羞啊，把那个 video 都关了，大家把 video 开起来一下，好吧？我都看不起大家，我都看不见大家脸，有那么恐怖吗？你连着我都不好意思啊，你们以后怎么跟老外讲话呀？懂吗？怪不得你看到老外很害怕，你知道吧？连我都害怕。大家对，把那个打开一下，大家看得到脸，这样的话，我以后跟你们讲话时，我也知道你们的行为状态是怎么样的。然后上课的时候，大家积极讲话，因为我上课发现中国人就不太愿意讲话，是吧？那你们来这个课程不讲话，那不是亏大了，是不是？所以我们今天课程主要就是从一个开始，然后跟大家 say 个 hello 一下，好吧？对，Jessica 很好，我看你打开，然后各个同学们打开一下。对，然后以后每个礼拜的天，礼拜六，我们在以下的差不多快10周的时间吧，我们和大家一起来玩这个比较好玩的一个东西。你可能这辈子都没听过像我们这样的课程，我们会不单教你的英文，更加教你思维逻辑。如果你是要留学，或者是你准备要留学，或者是你已经留学了，或者是你就是将来就是想要就是在工作上有成就的话，这种课程都非常非常适合你们，好不好？然后呢，如果你们是无论在悉尼还是在国内的话，我们以后都可能会有一些线下的活动，我们可以积极来交流。反正大家都在这个群里边，我希望咱们不单是个师生关系，我们也是一个朋友的关系。你们有什么问题的话，你们就大量的问出来好了。你们上课以后就会知道，威廉老师是非常非常好的。然后明天的话，你们就来听我的课吧。我都已经3、4年没有讲课了，所以你们非常 lucky，我重新出山了。我让你们知道我和威廉合并有多么厉害。好吧，那先这样了。那么我们就先欢迎威廉老师。那我继续来做我的休息，我继续在备我的课。明天跟你们再见了，拜拜。
OK，欢迎大家，大家都好。我是 William。今天我是想教你们点日常英语吧。然后我首先就是想我介绍一下我自己吧。我是一个澳洲本地人。我现在已经在澳洲住了28年。我是这里长大，这里上学的。所以呢，你可以说我的背景就是我基本上就是这里本地人。我今天想教你的呢，我们今天想教你的是，我怎么解释啊？就是你日常可以用的英文。我现在教你的不是像这种词汇或者语法或者这样，就是像不是普通的英文课，我教的是专门就是一些不同的句子，一些不同的情况，你们可以怎么样表达自己，怎么样跟本地人聊天，出了不同的情况，你可以怎么样反应。然后现在呢，首先我就想问一下，你们现在的英文水平可能是怎么样子？如果你们感觉自己的英文水平有点弱的话，也没问题，对吧？这个班应该是个比较简单的、比较容易了解的这种班。我们是从一个很基本的这种水平开始往上学，所以如果你感觉自己的英文不是很好的话，没问题。今天我会可能讲课的时候多讲点中文，但是我希望就是我讲到后面的时候，我可以就是大部分把课用英文来表达。说老实话，我的中文不是特别好，可能是等于一个雅思7分左右。所以呢，我其实也是感觉就是我如果教英文的话，你们可能能听得更明白，而且这也是听力的一部分，可以让你的英文自然的进步。现在我首先想先问你们一下，就是你感觉自己的英文可能怎么样？Tom，我好像认识你，你以前上过我的课的，已经很久没见了。
对，
你最近怎么样？
还可以。
我知道你的英文其实是没什么太大的问题。我记得我以前跟你上课的时候，好像讲的全都是英文，你都听得懂的，对不对啊？那很好。Jessica，今天是我第一次见到你。你能不能大概告诉我一下你背景是什么样？你现在是住在澳洲还是中国？
我在中国，我是留学生。
留学生是吗？
对，
对，
我 读莫纳什 diploma 现在。
哦，是吗？
我现在在读莫纳什，就第一学期有点不太适应，想适应一下。
你现在就是你已经读了1个学期了是吗？
不是第一学期，刚读大学。
哦，刚读大学你
对
听过他们做的讲座或者课程吗？你感觉怎么样？
有在上课，就是讲深一点就听不懂，就是
对，但是就是普通聊天好像应该没什么。
对，普通聊天就没什么，就 tutorial 听得懂，听 tutorial 都可以，但是 lecture 就不行。
哦，如果
对
tutorial 听得懂的话，那我们
对
现在讲的内容的深度应该对你来说应该没什么太大问
对
题。很好，还有sorry, where's my class list? 哦，好，还有杨飞 ，Hello。哦，sorry，你的声音好像还没开对。Hello。
能听到吗？
听得到了，听得到了。
我英文不太好。
就是你现在就是英文的经验可能是什么样子？
在黑府读 Certificate 2。
这个也不是，这已经不算很弱了。对
但是
对。
我还是觉得跟见到外国人讲话还是很不自然。
那肯定的。你们来这课就是因为感觉跟老外交流可能感觉有点尴尬，有点不自然，对不对？所以我们我们想学的就是这一点，但是我就是想大概知道了解一下你们现在的大概水平基础是在哪里。我感觉你们都挺好的。如果那样的话，那我这样吧，我就讲这个课，我一开始我就先讲英文，然后如果我讲到一点你们可能没有完全听懂的话，那你可以直接用中文来问我问题吧，我就用中文回答，好吗？我们就这样开始，我不要你们担心，就是我们今天讲的课不会，我感觉不会太难的，对吗？我们稍微讲点理论，然后做点练习，然后今天课程结束的时候，我可能再教给你一点练习或者功课，可以让你们试试看做。我们的目的就是让你发展你的就是很基本的交流能力。然后我首先想说的呢，就是我们教这个英文可能跟你以前学的这种语言课是完全不同的。这个有点难解释，所以我们就开始开始学的时候，你们可能就会感觉出来了，好吗？ Okay, so let's get started. So welcome to our first class. Today we're talking about daily use English. Okay, and our goal, hopefully by the end of the next 10 weeks, is to give you guys a lot of confidence to be able to speak to normal native speakers. Okay, so we're going to be learning a lot of different conversation techniques, a lot of different sentences and conversation topics and things like that, which you want to talk about every day. All right, and of course, I've chosen a few topics that I think will be very interesting. But if you have your own questions, if you have certain situations in life which you want to know how to deal with, if you've got different questions, or if you've met like a problem in real life that you don't know how to express yourself, please just let me know, right? Just directly tell me. It takes 10 seconds for me to teach you how to address a certain point. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is the big difference between what I call real English compared to textbook or exam English. All right. What I mean by that is when native speakers talk, when we talk to each other, right, the kind of English we use is very different to the stuff that you learn for tests and exams, right? And I think you guys might have heard some of this before. So, for example, when you're reading a textbook and they teach you how to greet someone, they might say something like, "Hello, how are you today?" Right? But when native speakers talk, we often say things like, "G'day, how's it going?" Right? It sounds very, very different. So we're going to be looking at examples of regular English, right? And regular English, I think, is based all on different situations. So what we're talking about is a situation or what we call a scenario in your normal life. Something that happens in your life. For example, you want to buy something, or you're meeting a new person at work, right? And we're talking about these situations and what to do and what to say in each situation. Okay, that's what I think real English is based around. Now, I want to start off with some learning goals, right? So in other words, in the next 10 weeks, what do you want to achieve? Okay, so first thing for today is we want to understand our priorities. Okay, in language, what's important and what's not so important. So for example, before what I told you was vocabulary and grammar, 词汇和语法, not as important as you might think, right? Something else like, for example, understanding your audience and understanding culture, much more important than you might think, right? And I'll be talking a bit about that today. The second thing that I want to do today is discuss Australian or Western culture in general, what native speakers often think, what we think of as polite or formal, right? How we want to talk to each other. And the last thing I'll want to talk to you about today is different types of practice and skills, how you can improve your English at home every day without using too much effort. Okay, that's the big goal. Hopefully, we can increase your English skill by a lot in the next couple of months. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Let's get started, shall we? So the first thing I want to talk about today is, I guess, what the difference is between learning English in a proper English class compared to here. So I've been to a lot of these English classes over the years, and usually if you come from a Chinese background, if you're studying English in China, there's a lot of emphasis on writing correctly, creating proper sentences, learning grammar and vocabulary. Okay, I've seen lots of students who are given lots of different vocabulary lists and all kinds of stuff to study, right? In this class, we're not going to do any of that. Instead, we're going to be looking only at a very small sample of different types of conversation, but we're going to be training you in how to use it in real life situations. Okay, so let's start with vocabulary. Vocabulary is something everyone's very worried about, right? You're always thinking, oh, I don't know enough words. Whenever you speak to somebody and suddenly you can't remember the word that you want to say, you get very nervous. You feel, oh, my English is terrible or something like that. But I want to tell you guys that's not true at all. Okay, so my first question for you guys is, how many words do you think you know? It's an interesting question. How many English words do you think you know? Any guesses? Tom, what do you think? How many words do you think you know at the moment?
I think over 3,500.
Over 3,500. All right. Now, Tom, when you were studying with me a while ago, were you doing the IELTS? I already forgot.
Yeah.
What score did you get at the end?
5.5.
5.5, right? Yeah. So 5.5 is about 4,000 to 5,000 words on average. Of course, we haven't counted, but yeah, about that much, right? And depending on what you're doing, there's lots of tests that can tell you roughly what your vocabulary is. So 5,500, is that a lot or is that not so much? Well, I can tell you guys that for an average student like you guys who started studying English, you guys will probably know somewhere between 3,000 to about 9,000 words. Okay. Now that number is not so easy to understand. We don't know if that's a lot or a little. Just to give you a bit of a comparison, average native speaker like me, I'll know about 50,000 words in my lifetime. 50,000. Wow. That sounds like a lot more, right? What about the English language? How many words are there in the English language? Well, the answer is actually somewhere close to 800,000 at this point. So even though I'm a native speaker, even me, I only know a very small percentage of the actual words in English. So I want you to know that, to be honest, I don't know that many more words than you. Okay, so you can feel a lot better about yourselves. The number of words you know actually doesn't really go and contribute very much to your English skill level, right? So to understand this, this is a bit of a strange start to a lecture about English, but I'm going to actually introduce you to a little bit of mathematical theory to begin with. There was this study about English done many years ago, and it came out with a result called Zipf's law. And what Zipf's law is it's a theory about the most common words in English. Does anyone here know what word is the most common word in English? Any ideas? You probably know this one. Think about it for a moment. Which word is used the most out of all the words in English? If you're not too sure, that's okay. I can tell you straight away that the most common word in English is actually the word the, right? This and that are actually very close guesses. Those are in the top 20, okay? The word the is the most common word in English. About 6% of all words used in English in any book, any conversation, any sentence is the word the. 6%, or in other words, 1 in 16 words is the word the, right? What's the second most common word in English? This one's a little bit harder, right? The second most common word is of, and of accounts for about 3%. Between these two words, we've got almost 1/10 of the words in all English sentences. There's actually very few sentences that don't contain at least one of these, right? 1 in 32. And so on. And if you look at the most common words in the English language, off the top of my head, I think the correct answer is it's the, of, and, to, in, is, I, that it, for, you, was, with, on, as, have, but, be, they. All right, so this is the top 20 words in the English language. I can guarantee 100% you guys know all of these words. How much does this actually make up? If you add up the totals for all these words, these are close to 30% of all the words you will ever use in English when you're making sentences, right? So what does this actually mean for us? What conclusion do we get from that? Well, the truth is you don't need to learn that many new words. You want to make sure that you know how to use these ones really well. Okay, you don't have to show off a lot of fancy vocabulary. You have to be able to make very good sentences consistently using just the small selection that you have here, right? A lot of people get surprised, but I tell people that statistically or mathematically, the top 100 most common words in English make up about 60% of all sentences, right? And the rest, the other 800,000 words, only make up the bottom 40% of the sentences. They're what make the sentences a little bit different from each other. Okay, so what you're going to see during our classes is we're going to learn a lot of simple language, but we're going to learn different ways of using very simple sentence structures effectively. Right, and because you'll be repeating the same sentences over and over again, you're going to become very confident and very good at using them. Right? When native speakers talk to each other, we don't actually use that much vocabulary, to be honest. Even though I might know 50,000 words, realistically, when I'm having a chat with people, I'm using less than 3,000 most of the time. For you guys, so for example, Tom, if you know 3,500 words, most of the time you're probably using less than 500 of the words that you actually know on a daily basis. Okay, so we just want to get really good at using those ones. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit fun for our first exercise. I'm going to show you guys a very quick website. This is something you can check yourself. It's called wordcount.org, and they've uploaded the top about 87,000 most common words in English. Okay, so you can see here, if I got this correct, you can see the most common word in English is the word the, then of, and, to, in, and so on, like the list that I was showing you guys earlier, right? And you can have a look at how good your vocabulary actually is, right? So for example, I said to you guys that my guess, if you're a new English student, my guess is that even though you might know a few thousand words, you're probably only using about 500, right? So we can type in, what is the 500th most common word? And we can have a look, right? Turns out the 500th most common word is the word rate. Do you guys know that word? Are you familiar with it? You've probably seen it before, right? And the words near it are also words that you probably know, right? Building, we all know that one. Sir, yes. Food, yes. Hands, yes. 505 is a bit rare. Committee. We probably don't use that one too much, but that's okay, right? If we go a bit further down, team, hours, right? Indeed. Indeed is another one which we probably don't use too much, right? The letter B, language, right? I think you all agree these are words that you probably know. And as we get further and further down the list for vocabulary, you start seeing words that are less common, less often used, right? So for example, let's go to 1,000. What's that 1,000? 1,000, we have names like James, words like January, standing, blood, station. These are also words that you're probably very familiar with, most of them. Okay, not 100%, but you know, most of them you'll be using quite often. How about if we go to like 2,000? At about 2,000, this is where you're looking at words that you probably recognize, like you've seen them before, but you don't really use very much, right? You never really talk about Italy or employed or hoped, right? So if you read it in a sentence or if you read an essay or something, you probably understand what they mean, right? But you haven't had a chance to actually use them in a sentence. So we can see that if you can get up to this level, if you can start using these words in your writing or in your speaking, right, you're actually getting very close to what a native speaker normally does. Because my guess is that I'd probably only use about 2,000 to 3,000 words in my day-to-day English. So in other words, my usable vocabulary probably stops around this level here. Things like permission or moments or brings or guidance, right? Not really words that are that hard, I think you'll agree. Okay, now of course, this particular list contains about 87,000 of the most common ones. And we can play a game and then go a little bit further down the list. And you're going to see some interesting stuff. So for example, what if I go to 10,000? 10,000 is about the limit to where students will have vocabulary. So at about 10,000, you start seeing words that probably a lot that you don't actually know. Right? Some of them are okay, like 13th is a very rarely used word, but you probably know this word, right? Do you guys know what a sweater is? Sweater, you probably still know. If you know sweater, you're looking pretty good. Do you know what sewing is? 缝衣服, sewing. Right? So that's a word that you don't use very much. Now, I want to tell you why it's not that important for vocabulary. It's very simple. I can tell you that sewing is used about 1/10,000th as much as the word the. So that means 1 in 60,000 words on average is sewing. 就是6万个字里面有一个是 sewing. The average length of a full-length novel, a book, is about 80,000 words. So if I get a random book off a shelf, chances are one of the words in that book is the word sewing, just mathematically. Okay. Now, in this kind of situation, if this is a word you don't know, I don't want you to worry about it, because if we're talking about one word in a whole book, then when you see that word, you can just check the dictionary. You know what I mean? Check the dictionary once in a while, not a big deal. Okay. And here's my advice for all of you guys. The idea that I want to push for you guys is that in the English language, there is too many words for you to learn. It's impossible, even for a native speaker, to learn every single word in the dictionary. Okay. But at the same time, you don't need to know every word in the dictionary. It's not actually that useful, because I can ask you to do like create a sentence exercise. Okay, when you做一个造句, right? And I say, can you use the word tick in a sentence? It's pretty hard to just randomly use the word tick in a sentence, because you can't think of a situation where the word tick is actually useful to you. right? And so if you're never going to use the word, there's no real reason for you to learn it straight away. You prefer to learn words that you are going to use. This ranking by itself also isn't as useful as you might think. When I was playing with this particular website, I was kind of clicking all the way to the end. I want to see what the last words in the list were, right? And one of the interesting things I found was the word hot pot. The word hot pot is at the 86,000th position. This means that most native speakers don't know the word hot pot. If you go to a random Australian person on the street, they probably don't know the word hot pot or have never used it before. But for us, we're Chinese people, hot pot is actually very common. We talk about eating hot pot all the time, 火锅, right? So this is the idea that I want to tell you, which is for a normal person, hot pot is not a useful word. They don't need to know it. But for us, because we want to use it, we want to invite people to come to our house to have hot pot or to go out. That's a word that you personally want to learn. And all the other words next to it, Ariana, Riddick, all these kinds of things, forget about them. Doesn't matter, right? Because unless you're reading scientific reports your whole life, you probably don't need to know any of these words. Okay, so that's the general idea for vocabulary. Hopefully everybody understands it. I can promise you, if you spend a lot of time watching movies, reading books, right, talking to people, you will 100% probably learn 10 to 20 completely new words every day, words that will actually be useful for your life. All right, don't go wasting time memorizing vocabulary lists and stuff like that. Yeah, so if you're interested in playing around with this one's called wordcount.com. You can keep setting the number higher and higher and see what percentage of the words you know at that particular point. But in the end, don't worry about it too much, because like I said, the 100 most common words in the English language, they make up 60 to 70% of everything you will ever use, right? So get good at using those. And it's all about making sentences, right? Just remember that. Okay, so what about vocabulary? Well, interestingly, vocabulary is a lot of the same kind of thing, right? Grammar. What I just said about vocabulary also applies to grammar, 语法, right? In China, I think there's a big emphasis on grammar, but what I tell people is grammar is actually not as important as you might think either, right? Having perfect grammar is, of course, very nice, right? It's always good to get sentences right. But even if you get them a little bit wrong, most of the time I'll still understand exactly what you're saying, okay? Now, I want to give you guys a simple example. If I want to write a sentence in English, there's probably hundreds of different ways I can write the same sentence, okay? So, for example, imagine if I have a sentence like this. I would like a pizza, okay? So this is the sentence I want to say. My question to you is this the only way I can say this sentence? What are some other options, different ways I can say this sentence with a similar meaning? Well, I might say, instead of I would like a pizza, how about I would love a pizza? Love is maybe a little bit stronger than like, but it's roughly the same. I think you'll agree. If I say that, you understand what I mean, right? How about, can I have a pizza? Right? Most of the time, if you're in a restaurant, asking for one is the same as saying I want one, right? How about I want a pizza? A little bit less polite, a little bit more demanding, but pretty much the same, right? Can I please have a pizza? Adding a please in there makes it a little bit more polite, a bit more like a gentleman, right? I'd like a pizza, please, right? My point is, I could spend the rest of tonight just coming up with different versions of this sentence. Now, I think a lot of classes teach you many, many different ways of saying it. But for me, I don't think this is very useful, right? If you spend your whole life learning different ways of asking for pizza, you won't have a lot of opportunities to say anything else. The general idea for grammar is that you don't need to learn every single grammar structure. You should just pick a few that you like and then practice using them in different situations. Okay, so for example, if I take I would like a pizza, if you think this one is a good type of sentence, this is the kind of sentence I want to use, great, right? The next step is to use it in different situations. So this time I went to a pizza shop. Next time I might go to a pasta shop. I would like a pasta, right? Or I would like a chocolate ice cream if I go to an ice cream shop, right? So what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter which one you choose. It matters that you actually do choose one and start using it as much as possible. And you can see that using simple sentence structures and using complex ones honestly turn out the same. In fact, I would say it's better for you to use simple sentences, easier to understand and less likely to make mistakes. All right? Let me give you another example of this. One of the common grammar things that you learn when you're studying English is verb tenses, 时态. All right? So I'm sure all of you have done a bit of study on this. Can anyone tell me how many tenses are there in English? Do you guys remember? I'll give you a clue. It's not three. Not three, right? We all know there's past, present, and future, but there's actually more than that. It might surprise you to know there's actually 16 different English tenses. 16. You probably can't even remember which ones they are, right? You probably remember like the top 6 maybe. I can show you guys. This is all the different tenses in English, right? Some of the top ones I think you probably know, like, you know, simple present tense, I play basketball. No problems, that one's fine, right? Simple past tense, I played basketball. That one's also okay. But look at this crazy stuff at the bottom. What's this? Conditional perfect progressive. I would have been playing basketball if something didn't happen. Have you ever had a situation where you needed to use that specifically? No, not at all, right? So just like vocabulary, what you find is that a lot of different things in grammar, even though there are rules, right? Even though there is different structures you can learn, the value of learning them is a lot less than you might think. I would probably say anything after this one here, after future going to, all of these ones are probably not that useful in your daily life. You don't have to spend a huge amount of time on them. Okay, so when we teach this class, I'm basically going to skip a lot of this kind of thing. If you really want to use one for some reason, you can just check it up online. Not very hard to do. Okay, instead, what I want you to do is get really good at the most basic ones. Things like simple present or simple past, those are the ones you're going to be using about 99% of the time. Okay, and as long as you can do those correctly, you don't really need to know any of the others. Yeah. It's also useful to know that you can change any tense into any other tense if you want, and it would still be correct. So for example, I can change I am a man into a past tense, I was a man into a future tense, I will be a man. These are all correct. There's nothing wrong with these sentences. It's just that the second two is a bit strange. It's not wrong, it's a bit strange, right? I am being a man, also technically correct. Yeah. But my point is, are these useful? No, just learn the first one, right? That's the general idea for grammar. Okay, good. Up to now, are there any questions? Do you guys understand the ideas I'm talking about? Oh, by the way, I should say, you don't need to mute yourselves. If you want, you can just turn your microphones on. I always like it when we have a bit of conversation. Yeah. Okay, so if that's the case, so now that we know this, well then, what is important? If these are things that are not so important to learn, what do we want to actually focus on? And my big answer to this question is usually audience and culture. You want to understand the people that you're talking to. You want to understand the culture, the tradition, right? The customs that we have here. I'm Australian, so I'll mostly talk about Australian culture. But of course, Australian culture is very similar to other Western cultures. So I'm sure people in Britain, people in the United States, Canada, all those other countries, we all think in a very similar kind of way. All right. When you're talking, you should be thinking about what do native speakers want to hear? What are they used to? Right? How do I speak in the same way as them? How do I copy them basically in terms of style and things like that? I can guarantee 100% when a native speaker is talking to you, they're not thinking about vocabulary and grammar. They've got an actual purpose when they're talking to you, right? So you need to kind of do the same thing. Now, I'll start by saying this. The way we talk to different people is very different. The way I talk to you is different to the way I talk to my girlfriend or to my family. And it's also different to the way I would speak if I went to, let's say, a job interview. All right. So different audiences should be spoken to in different ways. And the way we talk is usually called our talking custom, or a better way to describe it is our manners. Does everyone know what manners is? Manners and politeness? 就是礼貌. Right? So in other words, if we talk properly, people will think that you're polite. If you don't choose the right way to talk, people will think you're a bit strange or rude. Okay, so that's the general thing. And that's going to be our big topic for today. So different situations and choosing the right way to speak in each situation. Now, this might sound very difficult, but it's actually a lot simpler than you might think, right? You just don't want to focus on too many things at a time. I have for you tonight some very simple general principles for you to follow that will make sure that you sound the right way when you speak to someone. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little bit of a story. All right, I do a lot of one-on-one classes with some of my students, and we're normally learning things like IELTS and PT and all kinds of stuff like that. But sometimes I get random questions, and this was a student who I spoke to a few weeks ago, and she just said, William, randomly, I have a question. So the other day I went to a restaurant, right? Me and a few friends were eating. We finished eating and we got empty plates on our table. And I want them to take the plates away. So when the waitress came over, I said, take these away. Take the plates away, right? And then the waitress looked at me with a kind of angry look and didn't say anything. She looks like she was upset. So she said, what's wrong? Did I say something wrong in that situation? And I said, technically, in terms of grammar and stuff, nothing's wrong. What you said was correct. But the way you said it, if you just say take this away, sounds a little bit impolite. Sounds a bit like you're giving just a shout, right? In Western society, that's considered a bit impolite. And so she asks me, okay, so how should I say it? What's the correct way? Do I just add the word please? So I say, take this away, please. And I said, well, if you add the word please, it sounds a little bit more polite, right? A little bit softer, but it's still kind of strong. So she says, okay, how would you say it, right? If you're in the same situation, how would you say it? I'll give you guys a moment. Can you give me a suggestion? So if you want a waitress to take your plates away at a restaurant, how would you tell them to do it? Think about it for a moment. So the general idea is take this away, but we don't want to say that because it sounds a bit rude. What do you think is a good way to say it? Take a guess. It doesn't matter. There's technically no exact right answer, but there are definitely better and worse ways of saying it. Right. So for example, let's see. How about I pick someone out from the class? Don't worry, I want you guys to get as much exercise as is done in class as possible. So, Jessica, how would you say it? So if you wanted a waitress to take your plates away, what would you say?
You mean the waitress say?
Oh no, what would you say to the waitress if you wanted to take your plates?
Maybe I will say, please, could you help me to
yeah, could you help me to take these? Yeah, that's actually really good, right?
Yeah.
So if you said that, no one would think you're impolite. That's actually a really good answer. Yeah, so if you said, please, could you help me take this away? What's the difference there, right? You start off with the please. So straight away, you're signaling, hey, I'm a polite person, right? And right, the could you help me makes it sound a little bit more gentle, a little bit more personal, like you're doing me a favor or something like that. You're telling them that their effort is really appreciated. Great, right? So after that, if you say, take this away, yeah, fantastic. No problems there at all. Okay, so yeah, really good job. Now, for me, my answer, the way I said you should do it was I told her to say this. So let's just put down what were the different versions that we heard just then. So her version was take this away, right? Too rude, no good, right? Jessica's version was please could you help me to take this, right? Yeah, this one's very good, right? Now, my version, the one I suggested to her, was probably the same level as Jessica's, but a bit easier to say, right? What I said was, thanks, right? That was great, right? And then give them the bowl, right? So what I said was literally take a bowl and say, thanks, that was great, and just hand it to them. Now, why is this a good option? Well, if you really want to understand this, it's a combination of a few different things, right? Firstly, what am I actually saying? I'm saying the food was great. I'm giving them a compliment, saying good job, right? Everyone's very happy to hear that. Secondly, they know that I want them to take it away using my body language, right? Remember, I don't have to say everything. I can point, I can give people things, right? I can use my actions to speak as well. And thirdly, I'm using past tense. That was great. That means that I'm finished, and everyone understands that, right? And so this is like me asking them to do something without really asking them, okay? And so once again, it seems very polite. So this is the type of thing I want to teach you guys, little tricks, little word plays, and ways to use language that's more natural. This is the kind of thing a native speaker is kind of automatically used to saying. I don't really think about it. I've just been doing it so many years that it's very natural. So for you guys, all you need to do is kind of just memorize this kind of language, right? And then you can directly use it in any similar situation. I can guarantee 100% that you'll get a good response, right? Now, even though this looks very simple, this is actually a lot of different techniques put together. There's a lot of different language principles here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you guys about a few, let's call it a list of different tips that I like to give you to make yourself a better communicator, to make you more polite and able to balance your speech properly in English. Okay, now if you like, you can take some notes, but what I'm going to do is at the end of this class, this whole class is being recorded, so if you like, we'll have a video and you can watch it back a little bit later, and I'll also probably write up some notes, a summary of the class for you guys, okay, along with your homework. So for today's class, if you want, you can take notes, but if otherwise, you can just sit back and relax, don't worry. Okay, so let's begin. First tip that I want to give you guys, right, is that relationships are extremely important in speaking, all right? So this is a concept which I think is probably the most important of anything that I want to say tonight, right? Number one, relationships are important. So what does this mean? Whenever you speak to a person, one of your jobs is to build a relationship with that person. I don't mean like we're suddenly becoming best friends or something like that. What I mean is when you talk to a person, you want them to like you, you want them to respond to you. For me as a teacher, right, when I'm teaching you guys, new students or something like that, one of the best ways for me to kind of judge our relationship is how willing you are to speak to me, right? If I feel like I'm not communicating very well, if I feel like I'm not talking well and you guys are worried or anxious in my class, then you're going to be very silent. No one's talking, doesn't feel very good. Okay, so I try my best to be friendly, be energetic, right? Try to encourage you guys to try out your language skills a little bit. But this is true for any situation, right? You have a relationship with a person who you see at work. You have a relationship with even a random worker at a restaurant or a shop. And generally speaking, if you have a good relationship, it's much easier for you to talk to them, right? If they think you're polite, if they think you're friendly, they're much more willing to give you some help or something like that. So if you're in a shop and you want to ask for some advice or something like that, if you're very friendly and you're very charming and people like you, they're much more willing to help you. If you ask for a discount, they're more likely to say yes. Things like that, right? It's all kinds of little benefits. Now, one of the big keys to building a good relationship is your self-introduction or your greeting, right? When you greet someone, this is probably the most important step out of the entire relationship building, because as we all know, the first impression someone gets of you is very important. If someone likes you in the beginning, they'll probably like you the whole way through. If somebody looks at you and thinks, oh, this person doesn't seem like good news, right? Then they're going to try to steal themselves away from you, right? So how do you greet someone? Well, this is a tough question because there are so many different ways to greet people, right? For example, one way you could do it is you could say, hi, how are you? Right? Very nice, very natural way to greet someone. No problems. Now, what about if you're seeing your mum? Hi, mum. You look great. That's another way to greet someone. Or, hey there, mate. How you doing? Right? Or, how's it going? Or, what's up? Right? Once again, we're in a situation where there's so many different greetings that you can choose. We could speak about it all night. What I would like you guys to do is actually choose one, right? I can tell you that in your life, you probably only need 1 or 2 greetings total. One that you use when you're talking to your friends, and one that you use when in like kind of formal situations. So think of it as you probably need 1 informal greeting and 1 formal greeting, 1 for each situation. There's no real need to change it around. Nobody's going to really think too much about your greeting, but it does kind of show that you're a friendly person, shows off your personality, right? So, for example, who should I pick on this time? Yanfei, which one would you go for? What do you have a normal greeting that you normally use?
老师，
对。
能不能重复一下问题？
行，我的意思就是，如果你第一次见一个人，对吗？你会怎么样给他们打个招呼？
第一次 ，Nice to meet you。Nice
to meet you。对，所以这如果是你第一次见到一个陌生人，很好。那如果是见到个熟人呢，像比如说一个朋友，你可能会怎么样跟他们讲
？How's it going？How's
it going？ 是吗
？Yeah。
对，所以其实就是说，如果这个情况不是特别正规的话，你可以随便什么情况都说 How's it going？ 对吧？现在我可以帮你稍微改一下，就是你见陌生人的这个情况呢，你可能需要稍微改一下，对不对啊？Nice to meet you 虽然是一个很好的招呼，但是缺少了一点。你想得出缺少了什么东西吗？第一次见一个人，你第一句应该不会是 Nice to meet you。Nice to meet you。How
are you？How are you？
不是 How are you。这个 How are you 之前，其实 How are you 和 Nice to meet you 是一样的。我的意思是，这个招呼之前你要先说一件事情。如果见到一个人的话，你要讲出来你的名字。
名字。
你要先说 Hi。对不对啊？I'm 你应该说 Hi, I'm 燕飞，比如说，对不对啊？然后 Nice to meet you 或者 How are you？
先自我介绍。
对，先说一下，其实也不用什么太多介绍，就说一下你自己的名字就是。为什么呢？因为如果他们不知道你的名字的话，他们就不知道怎么样叫你，然后就感觉很尴尬了。对吗？然后他们回答就是说 Hi 燕飞，对不对啊？我像比如说，如果我回答的话，我就说 Hi 燕飞 I'm William 就好了。就是其实这个介绍就结束了。如果是个比较正规的情况的话，你可能还会握握手。所以其实这个情况就这么简单。如果你看那种中文 课本里面他们会教你很多这种奇怪的自我介绍，什么 Hello, my name is William. I am 30 years old. I like to drive cars. I like to play computer games. Sometimes I go and take walks on the beach. I'm in my 3rd year of university. 这种废话真正生活中没人会讲这种话，对吧？但是一个名字是需要的。
好，明白。
这样如果他们跟你聊天的话，他们就可以用你的名字。This is an important point to know. In English, addressing somebody by their name is a sign of respect and politeness. Okay? So whenever possible, anytime you're talking about someone, always try to say their first name. Okay? So this is a little bit different to in China, because from what I understand, in Chinese culture, it's more polite to give someone their title. So for example, your boss, you won't say like Mr. Chen, you would say 老板 or something like that, right? You give them their title or position. But in English, it's the opposite. It's much more polite to actually say a person's name compared to saying their title, right? And so usually when we do the greeting, the first thing we do is make sure the other person knows our name. Okay, that's for situations where you meet new people. If it's a friend or family, then you can just directly say, hey, how's it going? Right? Saying something like, you look great, giving them a compliment, always good. Nobody has any problems with that.
Yeah, but someone people ask, how are you? And in China, teachers say, I'm fine, thank you, and you, and don't teach us anymore. Yeah,
no problem. So if I go, how are you? And you say, I'm fine, I'm great, thank you. Right, yourself or how and you, no problems there. That's for someone who you already know.
Yes, but they don't teach us if the situation is bad and how to say that. Yes.
Don't worry, we're going to get into a lot of this. This is exactly what I mean, which is they've taught you a basic response, and it's not wrong. I want to say everything they teach in China, there's nothing actually wrong about it. It's just sometimes it feels a bit strange, and other times like this, you don't know how to continue the conversation.
Yes.
Right. After the and you, suddenly, beep, right, we're flatlining, no good. But that's okay, right? This is what I mean. If you want to have a real conversation, you have to have situations, you have to have scenarios, and you have to have purposes. 就是你讲话这个目的到底是什么？你想跟这个人讲什么话题？ Right? And for that, there's many, many different options. Now, as we go through our classes, I'll teach you how to start conversations and how to speak with strangers. So don't worry about that. It's actually not very hard at all. Right? All you need to do is find a common topic. But before that, we want to just make sure we know how to speak politely. So just remember that. Always greet people nicely. Always make sure people know your name. It's surprisingly important, right? And I also said that you should probably have 2 different greetings, one formal and one informal. So for example, if Yanfei, if you choose, how's it going, right? This is our version of the informal greeting. Right? So, anyone you're friendly with, you can say, how's it going? Right? What about, for example, if you go to a business interview? Well, I'll give you an example. You might say something like, good evening, right? I'm William, right? Nice to meet you, plus handshake, right? And this would equal your formal greeting, right? You don't really need more than this. Right? So there's no need for you to learn every other greeting there is, right? This is the only one that you need to use. And when somebody else says another thing like, how's it going, mate? Or something like that, you don't need to know exactly what they're saying. In your brain, you just think, okay, first thing out of their mouth, probably a greeting, and they're all the same. Okay? So that's the general way that you want to get into these conversations. Okay, number 2. So remember, what we're talking about is politeness tips, right? Little customs and tricks that should make you more likable to other people. Okay. Actually, why don't we do a quick exercise? This is a way I usually use to test if you guys know what I'm talking about. Tom, I'll choose you for this exercise. Just a really quick one, no big deal.
Okay.
Right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to say a situation. Right, I'll give you a scenario, a situation, and what I want you to do is choose a greeting which you think is suitable for this situation. Okay? So, situation is you're having lunch with your family and you see your uncle.
Okay.
What would you say?
Hi, uncle. How was it going?
How's it going? Beautiful. Exactly. Correct. Good. What if you're meeting an old friend, someone you haven't seen for a few years?
Hi. How are you? Long time not see you. How?
Yeah, long time no see. Excellent. Good, good. Right. What if you are talking to a teacher in your university? Or like after class, you want to ask a question or something?
Maybe I should say, how are you, teacher? Excuse me, can I ask some questions?
Yeah, right. Almost, very close. So what you would do is reverse the order,
Okay.
right? So you'd say something like, if you want to do a polite greeting, you could say, "Great lecture, man." Right? It's like, "Excuse me, great lecture." Right? Can I ask you some questions? Yeah, no problems there at all. Okay, excellent. What if you're meeting a completely new business partner? You started a company and you're meeting a business partner.
Maybe hi, leader or blah blah or something. How are you?
Right? So don't worry, you can copy if you like, right? So you might say something like this: "Good morning."
Yeah.
Right? "Good morning, I'm Tom. Nice to meet you." Right? And maybe we replace the "nice to meet you" part. Maybe if we were talking to a business partner, we say, "Good morning, I'm Tom." Right? "I'm very excited to do business with you."
Yes.
Right? Or "It's great to finally meet you. I'm really excited for this meeting."
Okay.
Right? So you can see it's just small changes on what we're already using. Right? Whatever you feel is kind of suitable to the situation. Right? Let's try someone else. Canary, are you there? Would you like to have a try? No, not connected perhaps. That's okay, maybe next time. All right, no worries. Let's move on, guys. Number 2, right? Second tip that I want to introduce you to. This one is even simpler, right? And something you should probably all already know. Please, thank you, and sorry. Now, these are what I call the 3 magical words when it comes to politeness, right? In other words, whenever you're trying to show off your politeness, these are the first 3 things that you should be saying in general. Now, do these words have any special meaning? Not really. The way I describe these to people is that these are kind of just like signal words. They're basically saying, "Hey, I'm a polite person." Every time you say a please, thank you, or sorry, you're basically just telling people, I've got a bit of culture. I'm a nice guy, right? And you should use these as much as possible whenever you have a different situation. So what are these in general? Well, to put it simply, thank you equals someone helps you or gives you something, right? In general, that's a situation where you say thank you, right? Sorry equals you did something wrong or you are bothering someone, right? Say sorry every single time. And please equals you want someone to do something, right? If you're asking for something, that's a please situation. So very, very nice and easy to understand, all right? What I want to really test you guys on is, do you know the different sentence structures where you use please, thank you, and sorry? Right, so this is about as deep into grammar as I'm going to go, but I think this is something that you guys probably should learn nice and early so you can start using them. Okay, let's start with thank you. So, did you know that there are 2 different versions of using thanks or thank you? Okay, there's only 2 different versions. Very simple. The first one goes like this. The sentence structure is so let's just put down thanks or thank you, one or the other. These are the same thing, doesn't really matter. Thank you is a little bit more formal. Thanks is a little bit more casual. Okay, so for the thanks and thank you, the first version of this sentence goes like this. Thanks for doing something, whatever it is. Okay, so for example, right, you might say, thanks for buying me dinner, right? Or thanks for your help, right? You can make as many sentences as you want this way, right? But the general idea is that this one is what we call the direct address, right? Saying what you are thanking them for, right? So whatever they did for you or whatever, you put this after the word for, right? So nice and simple. And I'm sure you can think of lots of situations where you want to thank someone for doing something. Now, the second version is the one that I think students use a little bit less often, right? And that one is the compliment plus thank you structure. Okay. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. This one looks like this. That was delicious, right? Thanks. At the end. Okay, so this is a situation where you're basically saying good job to someone and then a thank you for it afterwards. Okay, this is a version where you don't directly say necessarily what they did, right? Or you might say something like, you came at the perfect time, right? Thank you. Or something like that. Now, that could be used in a lot of different situations, as you can imagine. But these are the two basic ways that we say thanks. And almost every variation that you're going to see in English is one of these two. Sentences can get a little bit more complicated, but this is as much as you actually need to know for English. Okay, now let's do a quick exercise. All right, Jessica, your turn. Okay, so again, right, the way I like to practice, I want to give you some situations and I want you to make a simple sentence using what we learn. Okay, so for example, one of your friends just helped you with your uni studies or something like that. What would you say?
That was perfect, thanks.
Yeah, right. That was really helpful or something. Thanks.
Yes,
great.
that was helpful. Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
Now, one thing that's interesting is you can kind of do both, can't you? Right. So you don't have to choose this one. You can also choose this one. You can say, thanks for helping me.
Yeah,
right?
yes,
So
yes.
when it comes to which one you choose, most of the time it doesn't matter, to be honest, right? So thanks for helping me study, or that was really helpful, thanks. Right? Yeah, both of them were great. What about a waiter brings you food at the restaurant? So there you go. Here is your dinner, ma'am. What would you say?
Yeah. Maybe also can use the thanks for your help.
You could. That one's a little bit strange though, right? That one. That one I would probably use the second version, more likely, right? For example, I might say, "Oh, great, I'm starving. Thanks." Right. Great, I'm really hungry. Thanks. Right. So that's a nice natural one. Excellent. What about you're at a shop and the cashier gives you your change?
Maybe just thank you.
Yeah, maybe just directly thanks. Good.
Yeah.
Right? What about it's the end of the year, your accountant finished doing your taxes?
Maybe you can at a perfect time.
Maybe the perfect time one, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think in this case, the first one's probably easy, right? Finishing the taxes.
Yes.
Nice and easy. All right.
Yeah.
Or something like, oh, you finished? That's great. Thanks. Right. By the way, you can always say like, that's great for almost anything. That's like a very generic situation.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll give you one more. What if you are the owner of the restaurant? A customer pays and they're about to leave. What would you say in that situation?
The customer.
Yeah.
or
So
what?
let's say that you own the restaurant. You're the restaurant manager.
Yeah.
And then a customer's finished their meal. They're about to leave.
Oh yeah. And thanks for your having the dinner.
Yeah, exactly, right? Now,
Yeah.
having the dinner, we're going to replace with the word patronage, which is the word for having dinner. But other than that, that's exactly the correct idea. Yeah. Good, right? So yeah, you can see not very difficult to use, right?
Yes.
And of course, there's going to be lots of situations where we can slightly upgrade the vocabulary, but other than that, the general idea is correct. Yeah. Okay. Let's do the same thing for sorry and for please. Okay. Now, sorry, there are two different versions of sorry as well. Okay. So, and it's kind of similar to this, what we have here. So we've got sorry. And this one, the first one is the direct address again, right? Saying what you are sorry for, right? So that one, honestly, you can probably guess what it is. It just goes, sorry about or for, depending on the situation, doing something. Okay, so just as an example, right, you might say, oh, I'm sorry about the mess, right? Or you might say, I'm sorry for bothering you. Right. These are kind of very standard sorry sentences. Yeah. But we also have a different version, and this one is a description of the situation plus sorry. Okay. So in a similar way to the one above, you might say something like, you might say something like, oh, I've made a mess. Sorry, like that, right? Or you might say, oh, that was a disaster. Sorry, all right? So these are, this is where you put the sorry at the end of the sentence. Once again, in most situations, you can probably use either one. Doesn't really matter too much. All right, let's see. Yeah, Fee, would you like to have a try?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you some situations and see if you can make a sentence.
Okay.
Okay, so situation number one. You're at your friend's place and you spill a cup of water. 不小心把一个杯子打翻了。
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want, you can just say, I'm sorry, no problems.
Yeah.
But what if you want to put the cup of water into the sentence?
I'm very sorry about the.
Yeah, about the water, for example. All right. So there's a lot of ones you can do. So you can say, oh, I'm sorry about the water, right? Or you could 你可以用个代词, I'm sorry about that. That's fine as well.
About that. I broke the glasses.
Oh, I broke the glass.
Yes.
Right. Sorry.
Glass. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, good. Right. So all of those are completely fine. Right. And like I said, it doesn't matter too much which one you use, as long as you get used to the sentence structure. Okay. Second situation. You are late for a meeting. Maybe a work meeting.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm late.
So very close. Not I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry. Is it about or for?
I'm sorry about for this appointment.
Very close. So what you want is I'm sorry, something late, something in between here, right? So here the correct answer is I'm sorry for being late. That's the grammatical structure. I should say about or for, you need to choose one of them. Right? For is when you're doing something, for doing something. About is when something is done. So I should probably split this into two versions. So this one should be sorry for doing something, and the other version would be sorry about something happening, passive, like that, right? So being late is doing something, right? If you want to do the second version, it would be sorry about the lateness, which is a little bit strange. Not very many people say that, but that would also be correct. Okay, I'll give you one more. Okay, what if you're calling you're phoning your friend, but it's very late at night? You think they might be sleeping. What would you say?
I'm sorry, I forgot calling you.
Right. So here it would be sorry for calling you so late or something like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Or so you might say, oh no, it's so late, sorry, and then keep going, right? Yeah, exactly. So you get the idea. You've got the basic sentences, and then you just put either the sorry at the beginning or at the end. Okay. And then last one, the please. Now, please has 3 different variations that you want to know, all of them very, very commonly used. Okay. So the word please, it's either at the start, the middle, or the end. But these ones are used in slightly different situations. So the first one is giving instructions or telling people what you want them to do. This is when you put the please at the start, right? So this one is simply please do something, right? So for example, please pass me the notes, right? Or please sit down and be quiet, right? Or maybe please write your name on the exam paper. So these are examples of when you're telling somebody what to do. Traditionally, you would put the please at the beginning of the sentence, right? Then you've got the second version is the most common one. This is the simple request version of please, right? So this one goes like this. This one, I would say most of the time is could or can you, right, do something, please. Please at the end. Okay, so for example, I might say something like, could you pour me a cup of water, please? Okay, or could you see me after class, please? Right, so this is if you want to ask somebody something very simple. Normally the please goes at the end. Now there's also a situation where please goes in the middle, right? And this situation is request, right, but with extra emphasis or power. So if you put please in the middle of the sentence, it makes it sound a little bit stronger, a little bit more urgent. So in other words, we can have exactly the same sentences as before, but we just put the please in the center. And this one looks like this. Could or can you please do something? So if you put the please before the do something, it just makes it sound a little bit stronger, right? So in this case, same sentences, you would be, could you please pour me a cup of water? Right? Or could you please see me after class? Right? So just remember, if you want someone to do something for you a little bit quickly, or if you want to make it sound a bit more important, put the please before the do something. Okay. Now, honestly, the difference is not very big. If you do this one, it's probably fine most of the time. Okay, so Jessica, your turn. Right? Your first situation is you're at a restaurant and you want to switch seats.
Oh yeah. Could you help me find a seat?
Oh, you want to switch to different. So you're already seated and you want to swap somewhere else.
I want what?
You want to change seats. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you're sitting in the middle of the restaurant and you move to the window.
Yes, yeah, I know. Yeah. Could you please change the seat?
Yeah, change my seat.
Yeah.
Good, right?
Change my seat.
What if you want to organize a meeting with someone tomorrow morning?
Could you please define the time of the meeting?
That one's a little bit too formal, I think.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
yes.
should say it doesn't have to be you. It could be you, could I, right? There's a lot, I, we. So it could be any version of that.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're asking for a meeting, it's probably not could you, it's probably could we have a meeting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, could we have a meeting? Yeah.
Yeah, could we have a meeting tomorrow morning in this case?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. What about you're a teacher and you're reminding people not to be late for class?
Could you don't be late?
Yeah, or instead of don't be late, you probably say be on time. But yeah.
Yeah, on time also.
Yeah, could you be on time, right?
Yes,
or
yes.
could you please make sure you're on time if you want to be a bit stronger?
Yeah,
right?
yes.
But don't forget the please at the end because we want to pretend to be polite.
Yes.
Yes. One more. What about if you're a teacher and you're asking everyone to check their essays for mistakes?
Oh yeah. Teacher asked us to check the mistake. Yes.
Yes. So how would you ask that?
Okay. Could we check the could you help me check the mistake of the essay?
Please. Yes.
Oh yeah. Please.
Right. Don't forget the please. That's the whole point.
Yeah, please. Yes.
Yes.
Please is more important.
Yeah, don't worry. Once we do lots of these, this will come to you automatically. Don't even think about it when you say it. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank
All
you.
right. Any questions about those? Is everyone okay with those general rules? Yeah. Or can you think of any situations you've personally been in which you're not too sure about? Don't worry. If you can't think of any, it probably means you haven't been in enough situations. You got to do some more talking with native speakers, but that's okay. No problems. Let's move on, shall we? Number 3, third tip of this evening, right? And that's to think about your audience, right? Audience, which is the person you are speaking to, okay? So think about them, right? What do they know? And what do they not know? Now, this is a kind of interesting idea, okay? So this is showing your understanding of the person you're speaking to. As a general rule, if you want people to be comfortable, you always want to talk in a way which they can understand you, right? And you want to talk about things that they also know about. Okay. Now, let me give you a good example of this. I teach an exam called the IELTS, which you guys probably know. And part of that test is like a kind of interview, right? You have to have a conversation with your examiner. That's the speaking part. And so one of the very common questions they ask is, do you have any, for example, famous movie stars or singers which you like? Right? Are there any celebrities you like? And, because I ask this question to a lot of Chinese people, very often I get answers like, oh, 我很喜欢周杰伦. I like 周杰伦. I like Jay Chou or something like this. Now, there's nothing wrong with the answer. That's a completely fine answer. But the problem is that the examiner, a 40-year-old white person, does not know who Zhou Jielun is, right? Which makes them feel a little bit uncomfortable because they've got no idea who you're talking about, right? So I say, why don't you choose a white celebrity, Instead of 周杰伦, why don't you say like Justin Bieber or Taylor Swift or somebody who they actually understand? It doesn't matter who you choose, but if you say Justin Bieber, they'll know what you're talking about straight away, right? If you're talking to a stranger, right, about this topic, like if you meet somebody new and you want to say who your favorite singer is, if they're a white person, you don't want to say 周杰伦 because your job is, remember, you want to start a conversation with them. It's very hard to start a conversation if they've got no idea what you're talking about. That's when it becomes very awkward. Just 感觉很尴尬, and then your conversation ends, right? So to stop that from happening, right, think about what the other person knows and doesn't know. Try to choose topics which are going to be useful for you, right? Whatever you do, try not to use very complicated language, right? You know when like you learn how to write essays and stuff, all the teachers tell you, try to use high-level vocabulary, try to use complex long words to impress people, right? For tests and exams, that's good. For regular conversations, that's terrible. You want to use the most simple language you can that everyone can understand, okay? So that's very different between tests and real speech. Now, the second thing is, right, try to explain a bit of background detail, right, whenever you get into a strange situation. So a lot of times I noticed that because a lot of my students are not very confident, they don't want to talk a lot. But sometimes it's not enough to just say one sentence. So for example, we just talked about asking questions, saying please and things like that, right? Now imagine I go to a shop, right, and I want to return an item. I don't want to take the item and say, can I return this please, straight away, right? What's wrong with that? 就是我如果进了一家店，我想退一样东西，我不会马上问我能不能退这样东西。Okay, that seems a little bit rude and impolite because they want to know why you want to return it. They want to know a reason. So usually you want to start by explaining the reason first and then asking for something that seems more polite. So for example, I can say, oh, yesterday I bought this cup. And then when I took it home, I found it was broken. So can I return it? Okay, then it's no problem. Okay, you're giving people information. You're letting them know what the context is before you start asking for things. That seems a lot more polite, right? Let me give you another example. Let's say I'm walking on the street. Can I just go up to a random stranger and say, can I borrow your phone? Doesn't seem very reasonable, right? But what if I give some information? What if say, oh, excuse me, sorry to bother you, right? My phone ran out of batteries and I need to call home because my wife is pregnant. I want to check on her. Can I borrow your phone? They're much, much more likely to say yes in that situation, right? It's that kind of background information, sharing details with people. That's what makes people think like you're respecting them and think that you're polite. Okay, so whenever possible, try to give some of those details, right? Now, let me test you. Tom, this one's a little bit of a tricky one.
Okay.
Okay, you're making a phone call to a shop and you want to speak to the manager.
Okay.
Okay, your reason is because you want to complain about bad customer service. What do you say? So what do you say before, can I speak to the manager?
Maybe first, maybe I will say hi. Just to talk about hi. How are you? How was it going? My name is Tom. I'm a customer of your shop.
Excellent. Good.
I want to complain some staff customer service.
Yes, good. And then can I speak to the manager, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Very close. The only little thing I would say is get rid of the how's it going because remember, you're very angry and upset at them. You don't want to be too nice.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, hi. I'm Tom. I'm a customer at your shop. I want to complain about the customer service. Can I see the manager, please? Can I speak to the manager? Good, right? So that's enough background information. They know what's going on. Okay. How about a second one? You're on a train. you just got on a train and you want to take someone else's seat. Someone's sitting down on the seat. You want their seat because your wife is pregnant.
Okay, maybe I will say, hi guys, I'm Tom. Sorry, because I want to, sorry for asking you to change your seat because my wife is pregnant.
Yeah, now again, right, it's better if you switch it around. Say, sorry to bother you, right? That part's good, right? You say, my wife is pregnant. She needs to sit down, right? Could we have your seat? So put the request at the end so that they know the full situation before you say it, and that way it sounds better. Although because this is a simple situation, it's okay if you mix it around, right? But yeah, good, right? Exactly right. Okay, nice. So general rule, always give background information, right, if necessary. Right. So in other words, if they don't know what you're speaking about, tell them what you're speaking about before you get into the big details. Okay, number 4. Number 4 is always a fun one, right? Whenever possible, right, show your agreement, right, support / compliments. Basically, say good things about people. People love when you say nice things about them, right? And these are usually not even full sentences. They're really, really simple. Just things like, great, right? Good job. Sounds good, right? Exactly, right? I'm 100% on board, right? You are amazing. Anything like that, okay? So when other people are talking to you, if you just go, yes, absolutely, right? That's right. If you keep saying things like, good job, man, right? Then generally speaking, people will just have a positive feeling on you. Just make it nice and casual though. I've seen people say, good job. That's too much. Don't overact it. Okay. Just be nice and casual. Put a few of these into your sentences. Just nice and casual. Right. There's a lot of different ones. Tom, I see you taking down a lot of notes. So in that case, I'll put a few more, right? Things like, that's a great idea, right? Really nice, right? Or something like, just like, I agree, right? Or, yeah, fantastic. Now, I'm not going to spend too long on this because we could literally be here all night talking about these. But if you sneak a few of these in, right, people don't notice it, but they'll have a bit of a positive reaction to you. Okay, now number 5 is another one of those slightly important points. Okay, and this one is be assertive. Okay, now this is where I think Chinese culture is unfortunately very different to Western culture, which makes this one a little bit difficult. Do you guys know what assertive means? Assertive means, yes, assertive means forceful or powerful. Okay, talking in a way that makes you sound like you know what you want, right? Now, why do I say Chinese culture is a little bit unsuitable here? Well, it's because after speaking to students for many, many years, I feel like in China, being assertive is often considered impolite, right? So in China, if you say, I want you to do this, it's often considered impolite because 就是感觉有点不客气, right? But in Australia or in most Western countries, it's actually the opposite. In a Western country, the more assertive you are, the more polite you are in general, because we don't want to waste people's time. We don't want to waste people's time with maybes or up to you, you choose or something like that. When someone asks you for something, you should answer directly, right? So that way they know exactly what you want. So this is a difference in culture. Just take my word for it. If you're being assertive in English, it's generally a good thing. Now, being assertive, right, is, let's say it's a skill that you kind of develop over time, right? So in Western cultures, right, tell people exactly what you think or want directly, right? Try not to say things like, right, maybe or I'm not sure, right? Or you can choose. I don't mind, right? Because if somebody's asking you, they probably don't know the answer as well. Have you ever been in a situation where you're with a few people and they're like, what do you want to eat for dinner? Oh, I'm okay with anything you choose. Oh, I don't know. You spend like 10 minutes trying to choose a restaurant, right? In Western culture, what you should say is, I want to eat Japanese food. And then if you want to be, 就是如果你想客气一点, if you want to be courteous, you just say, I want to eat Japanese food. How does that sound? What do you guys think? So you can still ask people what you think, but that way, at least they know exactly what you want. Does that make sense? And generally, it's much more direct, saves people a lot of time, right? One thing you want to learn is this kind of response is usually appreciated, at least by white people in general. Okay, now, this is where, okay, let's just do a very simple exercise. Tom, I'll go back to you again.
Okay.
Okay, so for example, I'll give you some situations. I'll ask you some questions and then see how you would answer them.
Okay.
First one, where do you want to go for dinner?
Well, I want to go to the central to eat dinner, but if you want to go other place, you can.
No, too much. So that last part, 就是有点啰嗦了. Okay, so the first part was good. I want to go to Central for dinner.
Yeah.
Right? And then all you have to do, if you want to give them an opportunity, just say, is that okay?
Oh, okay.
Or you might say something like, does that sound good to you? All right. So those are, okay, so actually I can just note those down. So if you want to give them options, right, you can say something like, how does that sound? Or is that okay? Right? And, or what do you think? Right? So these are the types of very simple questions that you might put at the end of a statement. Right? So I want to go to Central. What do you think? Right? And they'll be like, yeah, that's fine. Or they'll say, no, I'd hate that place. Right? Either one is fine. Yeah. Okay. What about if your girlfriend asks you, do you think I should buy this dress? And your girlfriend is now a Australian girl. Do you think I should buy this dress?
I think I don't know how to say it. Maybe
Well, this is a situation. So there's no right or wrong answer necessarily, but I want you to be assertive. I want you to give a direct opinion.
Maybe I should say, I think you should buy it because it's a very beautiful dress.
Yeah, so yes, absolutely. It's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Or if you want to go the other way, no, yeah, I'm not paying for that. You could say that too. But that's a good direct answer.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. You're at a university, right? You're doing group work and someone asks, what subject do you think we should choose for our group essay?
I think maybe we'll answer. I think there are many subjects to us to choose.
No, that's too many options. You want to be direct.
I think.
You don't want to give options. You want to say exactly what you want. But if you want, you can add something like this at the end.
Okay. I think I want to choose the first one. What do you think?
Yeah, good. I want to choose that one, the first one. No problems. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's what I mean. Like I said, the Chinese culture makes you think, all the options are okay. Right. But for Western culture, right, choose one quite specifically. Honestly, no one really cares most of the time which one you choose. Right? But just get used to being very direct about it. Right. And finally, last tip that I want to give you guys, number 6, is control the intensity of your speech. Okay. Now this one is probably the most difficult, the most skill testing of all the things I'm teaching you tonight. Do you know what intensity is? Intensity 就是强度, right? So in other words, when you say anything, it doesn't matter if it's asking a question or asking for an opinion or just making a statement, every sentence can be changed by intensity level, how strong your language is. Right. Now, here's the thing. The general idea is you want to be as intense as possible without being rude. So, in other words, you want to take your speech up to a high intensity level if you can, but if you go too much, it might seem rude. Okay, so let's start. Let me teach you about, this is another basic area of grammar, but it's something which is a little bit difficult to kind of get used to. So intensity usually starts off with what we call modal words, words with different levels. Okay, let's just put that down, words with different levels. So you can think of there being a scale from very low intensity to very high intensity. Okay, very weak words versus very strong words. Let's have a look at what that looks like. So we've got high here, and then in the middle, we've got kind of low/neutral, right? And then on the other end of the scale, we go high again, right? Now, this is an interesting scale. So in the middle is your low power ones, and on the upper and lower side, we've got high intensity. Now, when you start learning English, if you ever get to these modal words, this is what they'll normally teach you. On the high end of the scale, you have words like, for example, must, will, definitely, certainly, and so on, right? These are all basically the 100% intensity type words, right? Or it is obvious, right? That type of thing. In the middle, in the low to neutral area, you have things like the 50% type words, right? Can. Whoops, why is it not? Oh, sorry, I'm not sure why. No. Okay, don't worry about it. So we've got can, right? Might, maybe, perhaps, possibly. These types of words, right? So these things could happen, could not happen, right? They're not really specific, but these are considered fairly weak words on the scale. And then on the other end, the other end of the thing, we've got things like must not, will not, definitely not, and things like that. So these are also 100%, but in the not direction. Okay, and then and between this, right? So this scale is not only 3, right? There's things in the middle as well. So for example, between neutral and between high and low, we have things that are tending towards one side. So for example, probably, very likely, mostly, that kind of thing, right? What about somewhere between here? We've got probably not, unlikely, right? Shouldn't, and stuff like that. Okay, so these are definitely stronger than the middle ones because they have a bit of a bias, right? But yeah, these are different controls of modal words. However, these are not the only types of modal words. Adjectives also have modal words, 就是形容词，也有不同的等级的。Right? So for example, we have our normal adjectives, right? So the weaker ones. So for example, you have words like big, smart, fast, these types of words, right? Then you have level 2, comparative adjectives, which are stronger, right? So here, bigger, smarter, faster, right? These ones are a little bit stronger than the previous, right? And then you've got the superlatives, strongest, right? Biggest, smartest, fastest. Now, depending on how you use things, right, that determines how intense your speech is. So, for example, I can say, Tom is a smart person. That's just a normal statement, regular level intensity, right? But if I say Tom is the smartest person, right, that's a much higher intensity sentence, but it's also a bit more risky, right? Because if I say Tom is the smartest person, 你可能会感觉我讲得有点夸张. Or you might get angry because you're like, no, I'm the smartest. That's not right. Okay, so the general idea is the stronger your speech, right, the more interesting and better your speech is, but at the same time, it becomes a little bit risky. You have to control it well. Okay, now let's look at some different situations. Right, I'll give you a good example. Remember that story I told you about the girl and taking the plate away? Her problem is a problem of intensity. So she did not control her speech very well. What she said was, let's remind ourselves, she said, take this away. Okay, so the problem with this particular sentence is the intensity is too high, right? Sounds like a command. Just 听上去像个命令，讲得有点太强了. So this is where we can play around with this sentence and say, how can we increase or decrease the intensity? So for example, if we said, take this away, please, it brings down the intensity a little bit. The please makes it a little bit softer, right? On the other side though, what if we said, you must take this away, right? That increases the intensity and makes it stronger, right? I can make it even stronger. Take this away immediately. Idiot. Right? That would make it way too strong. So what I'm saying here is there's nothing wrong if we're talking about grammar, 就是如果我们讲语法的话, there's nothing wrong with any of these sentences. They're all grammatically correct. But I think you can agree you shouldn't be using all of them in this situation, right? Then we have something, sorry, I forgot exactly what you said to me before, Jessica, but I think it was something like, could you take this away, please, right? So this one is a lot better, a little bit lower, right? Which is what we aim for. So this is like the good zone. Starting from about here, this is where we're starting to feel a bit polite. We can go even lower, right? So for example, you could say, sorry, could you take this away, please? If you put a sorry at the start, it's kind of like, oh, 对不起，麻烦你了. That kind of feeling. That's also good, right? You could also say something like, sorry, right? Could you take this for me, please? Right? So the for me part, this part here, right, makes it sounds personal, friendly, right? That's even better, right? And then we can go even lower. So sorry to bother you, right? Could you take this for me if you have some spare time? No need to rush, right? This is too courteous, right? If you talk like this, people are just going to ignore you most of the time. So if you go too low on the scale, it's actually no good at all, right? You want to choose how intense you want to be, and different situations require a different amount of intensity. Okay, now to understand this, let's try some situations. Okay, Jessica, back to you. Let's have a go. Okay, let's say someone's inviting you to a party, but you don't want to go.
Oh, yeah.
How would you reply?
Sorry. Yeah. I will say, sorry, I'm busy at that time. Could you change the time?
Well, it's a party, so they probably can't change the time.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm busy. That's good enough. That's already very good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So basically, you're somewhere near here. So it's fairly courteous. Basically, oh, sorry, I'm busy that day. Okay?
Yeah.
Right? So that's good, right? If we were going super high intensity, it would be like, no way, man, I don't want to go to that. Sounds too rude, right? But if you say something too weak, like, I don't know if I have enough time, they'll be like, of course you do, just come. Right? So we want to kind of find that middle ground. So it's still nice, but quite firm. Like, I'm sorry, I definitely can't come. I'm too busy that day. Yeah, so that's a good balance, right? What about you're recommending a restaurant to a friend? How would you recommend a restaurant to a friend of yours?
Oh, this is a perfect restaurant, and could you go with me to that? Could you go with me to that restaurant?
Oh yeah. So yeah, do you want to come or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're not going, you might say, or you should go. Right? So in this particular case, it's okay to this one is increase intensity, right? So somewhere near here, probably. So basically, if you're recommending a restaurant, you're basically like selling something. So 你可以讲的稍微夸张一点. It's totally fine. You can be a little bit more pushy. It's like, you should definitely go or something like that. No problems. Right? You don't want to say, this restaurant's okay. Right? You can visit it if you want to. You don't have to. That sounds no good. It doesn't sound attractive. Right?
Yes.
What about you're at work. You work at an office and you need one of the other workers to give you some documents.
You mean I don't want these documents?
Oh no, you want you want them to give you the documents.
Oh yeah.
So you need them to give you some documents. What would you say?
Yeah. Could you give me some of these documents?
Please. Yes. Good.
Please. Yeah.
Please. Right. Yeah. So could you give me the documents, please? Yeah. No problems. Now. 3 days later, they still haven't given you the documents, and you need to ask again.
I will. Give me these documents, please.
That's still about the same level. So now we need to increase we've already waited 3 days. We need to increase the intensity. How do we do that?
You must give me these documents.
Yeah. Or I need these documents, please. Or something
I need this. Yes, I need this so much. You must give me these documents.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's increasing the intensity. And then 3 more days, he still hasn't given to you. If you don't give me these documents, I'm going to report you to the boss.
Yes.
At some point, you're going to have to threaten him. Okay.
Yes.
But my point is, you can see here that this is what I want to get you guys to understand is this is not impolite. Depending on the situation, sometimes you do need to use stronger language. Okay. But it's all about control. Sometimes, Chinese people tend to think that this is impolite, but it really depends on the situation. If something is urgent, you do need to say it with some urgency. Yeah. Yes. So that's what we understand. It's all about language control. Now, this is obviously slightly harder. So we'll be doing more practice about this, and I'll make some exercises for you guys to have a try at these types of situations, right? But yeah, so those are some of my kind of big recommendations to you guys if you want to kind of get used to regular speech. These are the types of things which I think are important for you to kind of get used to. All right. Now, to finish off today's class, the last thing I just want to quickly talk to you about is mostly how you improve your English day to day. Right? Because this is, we've been thinking about running this kind of class for quite a long time. But one of the problems with this kind of class is, unlike other things like university or, IELTS or something like that, this particular type of class doesn't really have there's no measurement. There's basically no end of year exam that you can measure your marks on, right? So how can we guarantee that you're improving? Well, of course, I can still give you an exam. In fact, I've been asked to give you an exam, so I will, right? But this exam's not actually worth anything. So how can we improve our English every day and measure our performance. What I always say to people is that if you really want to improve your English, you need to make lifestyle changes, right? And the biggest lifestyle change for anybody is the amount of exposure, the amount of English you listen to every day. All right. And I just want to very quickly give you a few quick recommendations for how you can increase your English exposure. Just to give you an idea, what I want you guys to aim for is 6 hours of English per day. 6 hours, right? So that means listening or speaking or basically doing anything related to English. It doesn't really matter what it is. So for example, tonight's lecture, close to 2 hours, right? So you can mark that down as 2 hours done today. But how do you change your lifestyle so you can get more English into it? There's a couple of very simple things that I'd like you to consider, okay? Number one, right? Try to have some English playing in the background when you're doing regular tasks. So for example, if you're going out to exercise, maybe listen to some English music or something like that if you're going to the gym or if you're on the way to work, right? If you're cooking dinner at home, maybe turn on the TV, turn on YouTube or some kind of video streaming service, or maybe turn on the radio. You don't need to pay attention and listen to every single thing and concentrate on it. Just have it playing in the background so that you're like in an English environment. This is the way that everybody learns their first language. When you learn Chinese, nobody like specifically taught you all these grammar things and stuff, right? It's just you keep listening to stuff around you and you slowly take it in. So the more you do every day, the faster you take it in, right? Some other things I recommend, if you're using a mobile phone or a laptop, which I guess you are, change the UI to English, right? I see so many students, their computers are set to Chinese. Learning English fast is all about how often you see something. And if you're looking at your mobile like 100 times a day, if all your apps are translated to English, you're going to be seeing a lot of English words all the time. And sometimes you talk about them, you'll know what to say, right? So these are small, easy changes that will increase your exposure. Every night, right, before you go to bed, maybe watch 1 or 2 episodes of a soap opera or watch a movie, read a book, or something like that. One of the things I'm going to do for you guys is every week or so, I'm going to give you guys some recommended reading or watching. Okay, basically stuff which I think is quite good that you might be interested in. Now, of course, I'm not going to force you guys to watch everything I recommend. But if I find a lot of people actually don't know how much good stuff, like good TV or good movies and stuff there is in like English, right? So stop watching Korean dramas and stuff like that. Start basically looking at English stuff. I can promise you a lot of them are very interesting, and you want to choose things that you actually enjoy, because if you enjoy something, it doesn't feel like a big job to actually watch some episodes, right? 就是我要你选一样东西，就是你看它的时候感觉不是像学习一样，没有很多压力。Okay, something you can just do at the end of the day. And by the way, it's totally okay to listen to an English movie and put Chinese subtitles on. That's completely fine, right? In the same way, you can watch a Chinese movie and you can put English subtitles. That's also completely fine, right? It's all about exposure. So just do whatever feels comfortable, right? Maybe in the start, you need the subtitles. Maybe you find after a few months, you don't need them anymore. It sounds nice and it's nice and easy to follow. Right, it's just about how much you do. Yeah, good. So I will give you recommendations, right, in terms of music, in terms of movies, books, all that kind of thing. I'll give you a lot. So that way you can, pick and choose, try some out and see whether or not you're interested in that kind of thing. Yeah, awesome. Now, for those of just a little bit of bookkeeping. So we've recorded tonight's lecture. So if you want to watch it again, you definitely can. It's going to be uploaded onto our website. Just message the support guys and they'll tell you how to get into that URL. We'll probably have the video uploaded by tomorrow. So it will take a little bit of time because the video size is quite large. Okay, so probably tomorrow we'll have the video done and we should have the notes available by Monday. All of that stuff should be in the same place. So if you just keep checking, right, you'll see all the updated any homework, any exercises and stuff we produce. Okay, excellent. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you guys next week when we continue our classes. Now, just to finish off today, do you guys have any questions? Is there anything that you've been wondering? So what I mean is when I say ask questions, have you got like an experience in your own life which you've been wondering, a situation where you don't really know what to do and you want to ask about it?
Maybe academic writing, maybe not so related to today's topic, but I feel some confused about academic writing because I don't have accept as this the school let us to write more than 1,000 words, and I feel some nervous. Yes.
Wait, do you feel nervous? Is 1,000 words a lot or not enough?
Yeah, and more than we need to write more than 1,000 words, and feel some nervous. What essay word limit?
Can I ask why? Why is a 1,000 word essay scary? What about a 200 word essay?
The grammar. I think some grammar in writing is so important.
To a certain extent, yes. Although I will say, I mean, for academic writing, grammar is a bit more important.
Yes.
But, and this is an important thing, it depends on what kind of academic writing. So, for example, if you come to Australia, they ask you to do like an English ELICOS course. They test you on your English, basically. In that kind of essay, they actually do check a lot of grammar, so it's quite important. But if you, for example, do university here in Australia, the grammar is not really that important because their marking criteria is usually just 他们的评分标准 is usually based on whatever you're currently studying. So the grammar, honestly, they don't really care that much.
Oh, yeah.
So unless your grammar is so bad that they don't understand, which I don't think it is, right? You don't need to worry about it too much. What I'm saying is you're worrying about it more than they are worrying about it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'm worried more about it.
Yeah. So, for example, let me just give you a very simple example. If I ask you, like, how was dinner? And you're like, amazing. I'm not going to say, sorry, that's grammatically incorrect. That's not a full sentence. Start again. No one's going to say it. No one's thinking about the grammar in that kind of situation.
Yes.
Okay? So what I mean is in most situations, grammar definitely exists. And of course, if possible, we want to have good grammar, right? But I will bet that grammar is probably not the most important thing in that situation, right? When it comes to a 1,000 word essay or any essay really, the important thing is your content, 就是你讲的内容. Okay. If you have very good content, if you have good logic and organization, there's a lot of different things that go into an essay to make it successful. Grammar is a very small part of it, right? Grammar is a small part. Spelling is a small part. The organization and logic is a small part. There's a lot of different things. Essays are quite complex.
Yes.
Right.
But when I in China, I studied, the teacher always say the grammar is so important, and they use some more complex words and can increase the score of your essay.
So that's true to an extent. However, and I don't want this to sound bad, okay? But teachers, Chinese teachers, right, tend to focus more on things like grammar and vocabulary because that's the teaching style in China.
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of like their area of expertise. That's what they're good at. They're very good at finding grammatical mistakes. Okay, but for me, the value of that is not as strong as most people think, because these days computers can do the same thing, spelling and grammar checks, right?
Yes.
Let me Grammarly.com. Okay, so this is a
I use that.
that can basically fix up the majority of your, not every single one, but probably 70-80% of your grammar and expression mistakes without too much trouble. Okay. And we live in a digital age where things like spelling and grammar, the value of it is decreasing because of technology. Okay. So now, please don't get me wrong. Of course, I want you to have good grammar, and if you do make a mistake, I will help you fix it up. Okay. But what I mean is try not to stress about that, right? When you're writing essays, what they said about vocabulary, which is connected to content, is usually more important. Right. So basically you want to have better content, more detail, right? It's not so much higher level words. It's more like higher level content, right? So the things you talk about, if they're more interesting and more specific, you'll naturally start bringing out higher level sentences and higher level words.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, for example, I'll just show you what I mean, right? Now, I'm not going to write an essay, but for example, right, if I ask you, did you enjoy your dinner, right? A very low level answer might be yes, that's it, right? Not really showing off any skills. There's nothing wrong with the answer, but it's not really good, right? Now, a second person, a bit of a better answer might be something like, yes, that was delicious. Thanks. Okay, a bit better, not really that much detail, right? What about if I say, yes, the sushi was fantastic. I especially liked the salmon roe. Right? Do you see how these kinds of answers, this answer is again higher level and the vocabulary is better, right? The sentence, the grammar is also more complex. It's a higher level grammatical structure too, right? But what I'm trying to say here is I'm not focusing on the grammar. What I'm focusing on is the actual content, 我想讲的内容. And then the vocabulary and grammar automatically increase when your content increases. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know. The content is important than the grammar.
Yeah. What I mean is the content controls the grammar and vocabulary, right?
Yes.
If you talk about high-level topics, everything else also becomes higher level, so to speak. Okay. Now, don't worry. I do believe we are going to do one class at least, right, where we're talking about university life, right? And part of it will have to do with some essay writing. It might be a little bit down the track, but that's okay. Look, one thing I say is that I'm perfectly happy to check your work for you. Okay, so if you're worried and you have like an essay or something you'd like me to have a look at, right, you can just bring it with you to class or email it to me, and then I'm more than happy to take a quick look and give you some feedback. Right, that's the nice thing about having this kind of casual class, right? Just bring me lots of samples of your, your English adventures, let's call them, right, and we can discuss them. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. So that's pretty much it for today. Sorry for going so late. For those of you who know me, I usually go a bit over time. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to our future classes, right? And we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, right? We'll be talking about how to have conversations with strangers, right? How to get into a conversation and keep it going, right? How to make friends, how to do group work in university, how to deal with people in an office environment, right? How to arrange for meetings or deliveries, how to do shopping, all kinds of interesting topics. So that's going to be coming up, and I hope you'll be joining me for that again. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you all enjoyed the class, and I will see you same time next week.
Okay, see you. Bye.
See you
later.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.